Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a very impromptu video. Today I am talking about duping the vibes of the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill Vol.2. This has just released as I'm filming it and yeah, I have thoughts. Disregarding completely Jaclyn and her issues and her credibility and talking about her as a person, I don't really care. I have a gripe with the fact that it's another 35 pan palette. If you followed me for a while, you've seen my declutter series that was done at the end of last year, beginning of this year. And you know that I had my Morphe 35M, the Boss Mood palette that I just half depotted, half decluttered because I thought it was way too many colors, most of them not performing well, and I kept those that I liked and performed well. So I have just issues with a 35 pan palette of that size. I personally own the original Jaclyn Hill. It's quite a bit dirty and I had bought it at launch, so it's still in the cardboard box. I also had gotten later in the mail the little cardboard with the name, so I have it stuck here. And I still have this palette and I cannot get rid of it for sentimental reasons. Jaclyn was one of the first people to teach me how to do a smoky eye, and I loved her tutorials. So at the time when I was starting makeup and she was posting on YouTube, so I have sentimental attachment. And when she released this palette, I had still great respect for her. I liked this formula very much. So yeah, I just don't think that you need a 35 pan palette of neons. So what I did today, because I had time and I love playing with makeup, I made up a smaller version of the palette with kind of the same vibes and single eyeshadows that are in my collection to, yeah, dupe it, let's say, for me, and if it is interesting for you as well. This palette right here has 20 eyeshadows and I already think it's a lot, but can you tell the difference in size? I mean, it's a quarter of the size of the palette. So I just think in general they could have done a better job with reducing the amount of shadows, and yeah, it would just have been a more edited version. I think there's a lot of shades that are similar. I think there's some variations that might be very interesting. A little bit more pink or a little bit more orange corals, things like that, but I don't think you need them all in one palette. To be honest, on the eyes, they're quite similar to each other, and yeah, choose one or the other. Don't put all of them in one. So that's where this palette came from. I didn't try to dupe every single eyeshadow because that is not the idea, and I just kind of went with the vibes. The first row of her palette contained a matte white and a beautiful duochrome purple shade, and I actually like that. Matte whites are difficult to make and they're not in all palettes. I actually had to go to Inglot to get mine because I couldn't find a good matte white in my surroundings. I still want Sugar Pill Taco for it, but this one does the job in the meantime. And I thought that the duochrome purple shade was like the more, I don't know, UV light type of shade, was very well thought of. I think it's a very interesting pop for such a palette. Great job on that. So I wanted to keep that in there. The other thing that I did like and I wanted to keep was transition shades in neutral shades. So I added here pretty much a whole row of Makeup Geek eyeshadows. These are Creme Brulee, Honey Badger, and I think this is Cheetah Bear, yeah. So Creme Brulee, Honey Badger, and Cheetah Bear. And I like the idea because with a neutral transition, you can use any of these eyeshadows as a pop of color on the inner corner or just on the lower lash line. I like that idea. What I thought was redundant also with the shades that she has in her original palette were all the neutral shimmers. So there's a bunch of a bit more rose gold, a bit more pink, that I don't think we need. There's a few pressed glitters in that type of shade range, which again, I am pretty sure those are not actual like plastic glitters, but more of a bigger size, bigger particle size of mica, I think, but that has not been confirmed by anyone anywhere. But from the looks of it, it doesn't look like a pressed glitter, for example, of Colourpop, which I am wearing on my eyes today, by the way. Yeah. Talking about this eyeshadow look, there will be a tutorial coming up at the end of this video, so that will be at the end again. I hope you guys are liking this type where I add both a review or a video, like a topic with then a tutorial. I like to do tutorials, but I don't find that they get any views, or in the Get Ready With Me's, it's not really something that people look for. Plus, I don't really teach because I am not an expert. I like to do makeup, I like colorful makeup, and if that helps you practice with me, or you like the color arrangement, I think it's nice to share it. Anyways, let's continue with this palette, guys. I went all over the place. In the second row, I added the yellows. I think the pop of yellow was really beautiful. It really is very summery. And I added both a matte yellow and a shimmery yellow because she has them in her palette and I really liked the idea. Then for oranges, I definitely toned it down to just a few of them. One that is more of a, I don't know, wearable orange, I would say, and then a neon orange right here. These are all pretty much all from Colourpop, actually. Then as a shimmer, because I think shimmers are important, I added this duochrome shade from Colourpop, which is Thank You Next, which is a duochrome between pink and orange, as you can see, which I think is beautiful in such a palette. And then finally, I wanted some darkness, so I added at the end of each row some darker shades. Then on the third row, we have the more neon corals and red shade. I think this is enough. I added a shimmery coral because I think it's beautiful in the summer to use. So instead of having them all matte, I added a shimmery coral. And then finally, the last row, I decided to go for the purples. I have a cool tone purple, a shimmery pink, neon pink, and shimmery more berry purple, and finally a very dark purple to deepen up the eye. I do think that it was a good call from her to put a lot of dark shades in there because yeah, it's necessary to make a full look to have really dark shades, and I think the palette she made was quite complete in that sense. But again, just a lot of repetition. So I pared down the less neutrals, no neutral shimmers, and in general less duplicates. And I am curious to hear what you guys think of this little palette that I set together. If you think there's parts missing that are in the Jaclyn Hill palette that I didn't really take care of. Yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And if you like this type of video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to find out what videos you guys like to watch the most. So yeah, this is a little bit of an adventure, of course, for me. But without blabbing any further, let's get into the swatches. As usual, I am starting with a dry arm and no primer, no wet fingers, no anything. So I'm starting with the Inglot Matte White right here, and this is the shade Phantom from Makeup Geek. This is a duochrome that I am hoping they will bring back. They said they would. Then with the neutrals, we have Creme Brulee, which is a lighter transition shade. We have Honey Badger, which is a little bit warmer and more peach toned, let's say, more caramel toned. And then we have Cheetah Bear, which is a medium warm transition shade. Moving on to the second row and the yellows, I am starting with Take Flight, which is the matte yellow eyeshadow, and then Carrot Cake, which is the shimmery yellow eyeshadow. And I think these are definitely a great addition for any sunset look. The orange is Cannonball, and you can see it's a very bright but still quite wearable orange. The shimmer is Thank You Next, which is a duochrome pink and orange. I hope you can see it with the light. And finally, the darkest shade in this row is Facet, which is a burgundy brown with a bit of purple in there as well. I don't know, I think it works really well with these shades. For the third row, I am starting with the shade Staycation from Makeup Geek, which is a more pinky toned coral, beautiful shade. Then going in with Ooo from Colourpop. This one does not swatch very well, but it applies really nicely on the eye, and it has a little bit of a satin finish to give the neon pigment the best chance to adhere. And it feels almost creamy. Then we have the shade Echo by Lethal Cosmetics, which is a coral base similar to Ooo, but then has a pink shift on top. Beautiful coral shade. The next shade is a tomato red, and it is the shade Oh Ship from Colourpop. Very bright and neon, as you can see. And finally, for the third row, we have the shade Hot Tamale from Makeup Geek, which is more of a deeper red. And here is the third shade. As you can see, lots of coral to go around. Next up, we are going with the purples. The first one up is Try Me, which is this beautiful matte true purple. I love it. It is really good quality, true, beautiful purple. Then the shimmery pink is Solstice with the Mostest, one of my favorite Colourpop eyeshadows. It is a pink with a blue shift. Then we have a matte pink. This is Sandbar. It's a neon pink, beautiful formula, works fantastically. A berry shimmer, which is Paradiso. You loved this in my Valentine's Day palette, and I do too. It is such a very beautiful shade with a little bit of a duochrome almost. And then finally, the darkest shade in the palette, which is the shade Sleeper by Colourpop, which is a very deep, more berry type of purple, a little bit warmer purple. And this is the final two rows of this palette. I hope you like it. Let me know down below which ones are your favorite shades. And now, without further ado, let's get into the tutorial. I'm starting off with the shade Take Flight by Colourpop on a blending brush and applying that onto the highest part of my crease, almost to my brow bone, blending it towards my brow bone, and this will be my transition shade. I love that she put a bright yellow in there. I love bright yellows. They work very well if they're done properly. And this one here from Colourpop is definitely a nice one. It shows up well. Yellows are difficult, or like such a bright yellow is difficult. Then I'm going in with the shade Ooo, O, triple O. This is a bright neon orange. And this goes in my crease and on top of that yellow, and starting to wing it out. I've had a few questions, or actually one girl asking me about the winging out the eyeshadow and how I do it. And honestly, I am just trying to correct this bone that I have that gives me my downturned and hooded appearance to my eyes, which I really dislike. So I just try to bring the shadow the closest possible to my brows when I'm applying eyeshadow. For the next step, I am taking Hot Tamale by Makeup Geek and applying that on the outer corner as well as deeper in the crease, and getting this gradient sunset effect, which by itself is just so pretty. I really like this red. It is a little bit darker than a bright red, let's say, than a primary red, but it's really, not purple, not too orange. It's really a beautiful shade of red. To darken the outer corner, I am taking Sleeper by Colourpop on a smaller brush and just applying it on my outer corner. and it has a ton of fallout. I kind of applied a bit too much. I'm going back into my previous brush to blend this out and try to fix it. It went better on the other side. Then I am taking the shade Solstice with the Mostest by Colourpop and applying it all over my lid. I realized I have already done a similar look after I had it on for the dupes of the Vizart mini palette that I did a while ago. I'll link it in the cards up here. And it was a similar look because the vibes are the same. And it reminded me, indeed, as I said, how you could have done this with way less shades than 35. For the lower lash line, I'm starting with the shade Try Me on the outer portion of it, which is a beautiful purple shade. I really like it, and I keep getting fallout. The other eye went better because I applied the shadows before my base. And then with the same brush but cleaned out, I'm taking Sandbar, also by Colourpop, and applying it then on the inner part of my eye. And this is a beautiful bright neon pink. Blending out the edges with a clean brush just so that it's not harsh anywhere, and using my powder brush to remove as much of the fallout as I can. I haven't been doing my eyes after my base in a very long time. My apologies. Then I am applying a matte white first. This is Inglot 373 on my inner corner to brighten everything up. And then on top of that, applying Makeup Geek Phantom. This is a duochrome purple shade that reminded me a lot of the shade she had in the palette, which was the only interesting and weird one. And intensifying the other side as well, because somehow I'm a bit asymmetric. For my inner lower lash line, I'm taking Neve Cosmetics Trance. This is officially a lipstick, but Neve Cosmetics makes biological natural makeup, so it is safe to use on the eyes as well. And this is a beautiful like magenta with a purple shift. Not that you can see it a lot, but it matches the upper lash line better. I'm gonna apply my lashes and do my mascara and show you the final look in a moment. And here is the finished look for the eyes. I have applied lashes. I tight lined my upper lash line with a black liner, which is from Wycon. This is the long-lasting eyeliner in deep black, this guy right here. And now, just because I want it to be extra, not part of the palette, but I want some glitters, I am going to apply the shade Freebird by Colourpop on my lid, just with a finger. Like that. And here it is. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video and this tutorial, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!